The story begins in the past, as a small boy cries while holding the dress of someone precious to him. Before they leave, he makes a promise. When he grows up, he will come to see them again. At present, that boy is now older and traveling alone. On the phone, his editor is shocked to hear that he is going to live by himself. He awkwardly confirms it and also apologizes for his late manuscript. The editor worries because he is still young and wonders if his brother allowed this. But the truth is, he has not even told his brother yet. He explains that the house is where he used to live. It has been abandoned for years and is far from the city, but it is still familiar to him. The editor accepts this and tells him to treat it like a fresh start as long as he still sends the manuscript. But this move is not just about living alone. He is returning to an old house, old memories, and the promise he made years ago. He is basically Higurashi Tsugumi, a 15-year-old novice author. At only 14, he won a big writing award and made a powerful debut as a literary genius. Everyone praised him and expected him to become a great writer in the future. But 1 year has passed, and Tsugumi has now fallen into his first serious slump. Since winning that award, he has not been able to write anything better. The pressure, criticism, and expectations slowly start crushing him. At first, he thinks he is fine, but because he is sensitive, every harsh word hits him deeply. Soon, writing becomes painful, and it even feels hard for him to breathe. So he decides to leave home while his brother is away on a trip. He wants to stay away from society for a while and move into the old abandoned house. Standing with his suitcase, Tsugumi realizes he has done something he probably should not have done, but then he quickly stops himself from panicking. He tells himself no, he cannot turn back now. Tsugumi tries to convince himself that he is not running away. A change of place can help creativity, and even great writers have done the same. He remembers that this old house is full of beautiful memories from his childhood. Soon, he finally reaches the place. The trip was longer than expected, but his luggage had already arrived. MC opens the house and steps inside. Everything looks almost the same as before. The shelves are packed with old books, and some are even out of print. He remembers that his father was a collector. This house is not just empty, it is filled with memories of his family, his father, and the promise he made long ago. Poor Tsugumi remembers the tragedy from 10 years ago. A huge fire burned down the main house, and in that fire he lost both his parents and the maid who cared for the place. Only his father's separate library survived. After that, his brother took him to the city, and the house was abandoned for years. Because of the fire, people now treat it like a haunted house. As Tsugumi looks around, he remembers the maid. To him, she was the perfect woman, beautiful, smart, gentle, and elegant. But before he gets too emotional, he stops himself as he did not come here to be sentimental. Then he notices something strange. The books are still in good condition. The floor and windows also look clean. There is not even a speck of dust. That makes no sense. The place has been locked and abandoned for 10 years, and he has never returned since that day. So if no one should be here, then who has been keeping this place clean? Suddenly, he hears someone behind him and turns around. The moment he sees a girl standing there, he jumps back in pure panic. The haunted house theory just became 4K real. The girl looks at him and calmly calls him Master Tsugumi. Then she reaches toward his face like she already knows him. Tsugumi freezes, completely confused. Then, with a bright laugh, she greets him with extra care. Tsugumi backs away, still trying to understand what is happening. The girl happily comments that he has grown a lot, but he is still shorter than her. First meeting after 10 years and she has already chosen violence. Then she starts acting playful, saying she has also aged and now looks like an old lady. But Tsugumi only panics more, because this whole situation makes no sense. He stares at her and asks who she really is. The girl suddenly goes quiet, surprised that he does not recognize her. Tsugumi's mind crashes. A girl is inside a locked house, calling him by name, acting like they are close, and the place has somehow stayed perfectly clean for 10 years. At this point, he didn't enter a house. He entered the mystery route. Tsugumi suddenly sees the girl more clearly and instantly panics. She asks if he really forgot about her, then tells him to look properly because she is still clear and beautiful. But Tsugumi notices the real problem. She is floating, has no feet, and even has that ghost-like triangle on her head. The girl then hugs him tightly, hoping he will remember her. Tsugumi completely freezes as it has been a long time, but he has no idea who she is. She thinks maybe he forgot because she became more grown-up, and even jokes that she must be his type. Tsugumi panics and says there is no way. His type is more refined and elegant, not a loud ghost who attacks people out of nowhere. First reunion, and bro is already fighting for oxygen. Then it finally hits him. This girl is connected to the maid who died in the fire 10 years ago. Tsugumi stares at her in shock and asks if she is kidding. Because the person standing in front of him is supposed to be dead, he finally realizes the ghost girl is Nico, the maid who died in the fire 10 years ago. She smiles happily when he calls her name. Nico happily pokes his face and acts excited to see him again. Meanwhile, Tsugumi can barely process anything, and that's how Tsugumi's new life in the old house begins. But now he is not living alone. He is living together with a ghost. Tsugumi remembers his childhood. Back then, Nico was the maid of the house, and he was just a small kid who liked showing her his drawings. One day he proudly shows her a paper with both their names written on it. Nico gently corrects him and says he wrote one character wrong. Instead of scolding him, she praises him for reading kanji at such a young age and happily tells him he will become an author someday. Little Tsugumi really got his first writing fan before the career even started. Back in the present, Tsugumi finally connects the memory to the ghost in front of him. He calls her Nico and she becomes excited, thinking he finally remembers her. But he still cannot accept it. He asks if she is really that Nico because this makes no sense. Nico insists she is not lying, but Tsugumi panics because the Nico he knew was never like this. Tsugumi compares the Nico from his childhood with the ghost in front of him. Before, she was calm, elegant, and dignified. Now, she is loud, playful, and way too energetic. He panics and questions how she changed this much, then focuses on the bigger problem. Why is she a ghost? Nico only guesses that maybe she became one of those spirits tied to a place. Helpful answer, 0. Ghost confidence, maximum. Tsugumi then realizes something important. If Nico is here, maybe his parents are here too. But Nico's face turns serious. Unfortunately, she tells him she is the only one he can meet again. His parents are not there. Still, Nico smiles warmly and welcomes him home. Tsugumi stands there quietly, overwhelmed. He thought he would never see her again. He feels sad that his parents are not there, but meeting Nico again already means everything to him. He admits he is scared. He came here to live alone, but finding a ghost already inside makes it impossible for him to focus on work. Even if Nico was his first love, that was all in the past now. Romantic memory turned into survival horror real quick. While he thinks about finding another place, Nico starts going through his luggage. She even pulls out his boxers and guesses his underwear taste, making Tsugumi lose it instantly. Nico then notices his manuscript pages. She is shocked if it's his novel and if he came here for work. She then realizes he really became a novelist. She gets excited as he finally achieves his dream. But Tsugumi quickly panics and hides the papers, because that draft was actually rejected. He tells her it is not a big deal, but he is clearly still hurt by it. After that, our lad explains that he came to this house to focus on writing because he thought nobody was here. But now that Nico is haunting the place, he decides to find somewhere else. Nico does not understand why they cannot live together like before, but Tsugumi reminds her that she was only working here back then. Also, living with a ghost is not exactly normal. Peaceful writing retreat turned into paranormal roommate drama. He starts packing, ready to leave. Nico becomes quiet and asks if he is really going. Before he can answer, she reaches out and stops him. Then she moves close, holds his face, and tells him not to go. Tsugumi freezes. Nico then reminds him of something important that he promised. She suddenly laughs and reveals she was just joking about the promise. Tsugumi gets annoyed because that serious act scared him for real. But Nico's smile softens. She admits she is just happy to finally talk to someone again. After all, she has been alone in this house for 10 years. Ghost bestie Nico was basically buffering in loneliness mode. Hearing that, Tsugumi feels bad. Nico then requests him to live here with her. He still hesitates because living with a ghost is too strange, even if finding another place would be hard. But Nico confidently tells him there are benefits to staying. Before he can react, she grabs his hand and pulls him toward the boxes. Nico leans closer and promises to give Tsugumi all kinds of service. He instantly panics, but she quickly pulls out a duster and explains that she means maid service. Cleaning, laundry, and cooking. She reminds him that she used to do all of this for him when he was little. Tsugumi argues that he can handle chores himself, but Nico finds his cup noodles and immediately exposes his living alone skills. Writer boy Tsugumi got caught by the instant noodle evidence. Nico then gives more reasons. She does not need money, she is good at housework, and since she is transparent, he can ignore her easily. She also says that once she loses her reason for staying in this house, she can finally pass on. MC gets a headache from all this, but he knows she has a point. If he ignores the ghost part, having someone handle the housework is actually useful. And more than that, he remembers how desperately Nico asked him not to go. Tsugumi looks at Nico and realizes both of them have changed a lot since the past. He finally breathes in and decides to accept the situation. Nico gets super happy, but Tsugumi quickly sets rules. She must not disturb his work and must stop touching his stuff, especially after building a whole cup noodle pyramid. She really turned his emergency food into modern art. Tsugumi also tells her that things are different now. Once she feels satisfied, she should pass on. Nico agrees but still calls him Master Tsugumi. He stops her and tells her not to call him that anymore. So Nico smiles and says they should get along from now on. And just like that, Tsugumi starts his strange new life with Nico, the ghost. The scene shifts to the next morning. Tsugumi is still trying to accept the fact that his elegant first love is now a loud ghost, and somehow he is living with her. Then a delivery arrives. Half asleep, he opens the door and signs for one box. But when the delivery man asks where to put the rest, Tsugumi gets confused. That is when the man drops the bomb. 99 more boxes are waiting for him. Soon, the house is filled with boxes of Hokkaido potatoes. Tsugumi just stares in horror, unable to understand what is happening. Writer Boy woke up and got hit with the potato apocalypse. He wonders why he received so many potatoes, and Nico finally admits the truth. She tried ordering ingredients online, but since it was her first time, she accidentally added too many zeros. Even worse, the money came from Tsugumi's card. Cutie just discovered online shopping and instantly caused financial damage. Nico explains that she only wanted ingredients so she could cook proper meals for him. After seeing him eat instant noodles, she worried about his health. Tsugumi thinks about returning the potatoes, but since they are vegetables, that may not work. Nico then suggests giving them to people they know. Of course, by people we know, she actually means people Tsugumi knows. Since Nico cannot leave the house, he ends up making the deliveries himself, even though the town is far away. He tells her not to bother him or touch his things while he is gone, but she just waves happily and sends him off. While dragging the potato cart through town, Tsugumi realizes he cannot do this every day. He starts wondering why Nico changed so much after becoming a ghost. In his memory, Nico was calm, capable, kind, and almost perfect. She never acted this clumsily or noisily. But now, she keeps getting in his way and causing chaos. She surely had a serious personality update after death. Our hero panics as he pushes the cart while his mind spirals that she is not exactly annoying. She is just very different from the Nico he remembers. After a long trip, he finally returns home. Nico instantly appears in the window and complains that he is late, like she has been waiting for him the whole time. Then she smiles brightly and tells him the food is ready. Tsugumi gets frustrated and declares that this chaotic ghost cannot be the Nico he once loved. He rushes back inside, ready to scold her for everything. But then he stops. Nico is waiting with a warm smile and tells him, "Welcome home." She has already prepared dinner and tells him to wash his hands. Tsugumi sits down and sees cream stew on the table. Nico admits she used instant roux from one of the boxes and added potatoes, turning the whole disaster into a meal. Potato apocalypse somehow became dinner content. She apologizes for messing up, but Tsugumi quietly thanks her and takes a bite. Then he suddenly realizes something. Even if Nico has changed, this feeling of coming home to someone is still real. While eating, Tsugumi remembers that Nico used to make stew for him all the time. Back then, he loved it so much that he always asked for it even though he hated vegetables. Nico jokes that he was cuter as a kid, but Tsugumi suddenly goes quiet. The taste is the same as he remembers. For a second, Nico worries that the food is bad, but Tsugumi quickly says he is talking about the stew. He realizes he may have judged her too quickly. One spoonful, and Boy's memory folder starts reopening. But he cannot understand one thing. If this stew was so important to him, how did he forget it? He thinks his senses are dead, but she still managed to grab him with food. Miss Maid smiles as he likes it. Tsugumi keeps eating and tells himself his taste is probably better than his memory. But deep down, the stew still feels familiar, like something important he forgot. Nico then casually suggests making stew again tomorrow, but Tsugumi quickly stops her. He tells her that if she needs anything, he can go buy it himself so she does not have to order online again. After the potato disaster, online shopping is officially banned. He says it is no big deal because they are living together now. Nico becomes quiet for a moment, clearly touched by his words. When Tsugumi notices her reaction, she smiles and says it is nothing. Then she immediately tells him to buy ingredients for the next few days. Tsugumi panics because she means right now. On a rainy morning, Tsugumi looks surprisingly cheerful. He happily calls out to Nico and wants to know what she is making for breakfast. She turns around, a little surprised by his mood. She points out that he seems very cheerful despite the rain. Tsugumi proudly reasons that he finally reached a stopping point with his writing. In his heart, it feels like a whole festival is happening under sunny skies. Then she realizes this means he finished writing a novel. She immediately gets excited and moves closer. She wants to read it, especially because she has never seen his proper work before except for the rejected draft. Tsugumi gets shy but is also clearly happy. Then he downplays the story, claiming he could not even put half of his real effort into it. Still, he agrees to show it to her if she really wants to read it. Nico happily floats away to get the manuscript. But just as the mood becomes sweet and peaceful, a loud crash suddenly comes from the other side. Tsugumi screams. She peeks in after hearing the scream and wonders what all the noise is about. But then both of them see the disaster. Tsugumi's draft is completely soaked. For a moment the whole room goes silent. Tsugumi stands there dripping with rage, while Nico quickly panics and insists it was not her this time. But Tsugumi snaps. He cannot understand who else would do something this terrible, especially right after he finally finished his work. His mood crashes instantly, and he starts blaming both himself and the draft like his emotions are fighting for the controller. Deadline Keyed really went from festival mode to emotional damage speedrun. Nico tries to calm him down, but then Tsugumi notices something strange. They are inside the house, so where did the water even come from? Both of them freeze as water drips onto the floor and the table. Even the ink bottle and pen are sitting beside the wet spot, like something unnatural just happened right there. The ruined draft is bad enough, but now the real question is much creepier. If Nico did not do it, then what did? She quickly realizes the water came from a leak. For now, they place a bucket under the dripping spot as an emergency solution. But Tsugumi still has a bigger problem. He cannot reach the ceiling because he has no ladder, and he also cannot hire anyone to fix it because Nico's potato accident already destroyed his money. Then the real damage hits him again. His draft is ruined, the pages are soaked, and the ink is starting to run. Tsugumi completely breaks down because he finally finished it, only for it to get destroyed like this. Nico tries to calm him down, but he becomes emotionally unstable and wonders what he did to deserve this. Then he remembers his editor, Sakura-ni, who has been waiting for the manuscript. She is scary when angry, so he instantly imagines the worst. At first, Tsugumi almost blames himself for not writing digitally, but then he realizes that if a computer had gotten soaked, it might have broken too. He starts spiraling over whether waterproof devices even exist. Nico notices how gloomy he becomes and points out that he is more fragile than he usually looks. She then suggests drying the pages for now, but Tsugumi hasn't even made copies yet, so the situation is still bad. As he looks at the handwritten pages, one thought crosses our heroine's mind. Are handwritten drafts even still normal these days? Nico points out that phones and machines have improved a lot, so Tsugumi could probably write his novel digitally now. Tsugumi admits that it might be more common these days, and he also knows digital data would be easier to manage. But for him, handwriting matters. He explains that typed words feel too mechanical. When he writes each character by hand, it feels like he is slowly bringing the story to life. Nico ignores his grief and focuses on drying the novel with a hairdryer. But the ink is already spreading, and the letters are becoming unreadable. He watched his whole masterpiece turn into soup. Nico tries to comfort him by pointing out that once the story becomes a real book, it will not stay handwritten anyway. But Tsugumi struggles to explain that this is different. To him, the handwritten pages are part of the feeling, not just the final result. Then he finally admits another reason. He likes the sound of writing. The sound of a pen running across paper calms him down more than anything. Nico listens and slowly understands what he means. Tsugumi then compares it to the sound of rain. Rain is quiet and calming too, but right now, because of the leak, he is completely sick of it. As they look up, the leak gets worse. Water keeps dripping, and the damaged wooden ceiling seems to be spreading the problem. So even though Tsugumi's manuscript is already ruined, the house itself now has a bigger problem. Then the leak gets worse. The bucket is not enough, and Tsugumi cannot reach the ceiling because the room is too high. Even standing on a table would not help. But Nico reminds him that she is there. Since she can float, she reaches the ceiling easily, and Tsugumi finally realizes how useful having a ghost roommate can be. Together, they make a quick emergency fix with packing tape, a towel, and a plastic sheet. It is messy, but it should hold for now. Still, Nico warns that they should call a proper specialist later, especially since the rainy season will continue for a while. As the rain keeps falling outside, Tsugumi can only hope it does not last too long. After the leak situation, he suddenly feels exhausted. The ruined draft, the broken ceiling, and the whole rainy day disaster drain him completely. He decides to take a short nap before getting back to work. Nico tells him she will call him when breakfast is ready. Tsugumi quietly thanks her and heads upstairs. But as she watches him go, she notices how tired and small he looks for a moment. It reminds her of the little boy from the past, and she softly laughs to herself. To her, even after growing up, Tsugumi still feels like that same kid. After that, Nico returns to the leak problem. She thinks the ceiling needs support from the outside, so she decides to finish that part first. But then she notices something much worse. The bedroom is directly above the leaking area. If water is coming from there, then it means the real problem is not just the ceiling. The second floor is flooded. Tsugumi finds out soon after and completely loses it. The scene shifts to Nico decorating a small bamboo tree with paper slips. She happily explains that Tanabata is almost here. Since they have now been living together for about 3 months, she brings out Tanzaku wish papers and tells Tsugumi to write a wish too. Tsugumi quickly refuses because he still has work to do. But when he looks closer, the tree is already covered with Nico's wishes. There is barely any space left. Tsugumi jokes that he will pass on that kind of thing, but Nico becomes flustered. She apologizes and tries to explain that she did finish preparing it, but maybe went a little too far. Before they can continue, Tsugumi's phone starts ringing. He immediately gets nervous because the caller is his editor, Sakura Nisan. He answers, desperately explaining the situation. The draft got wet from the rain, but he has already rewritten most of it, so he promises it will be finished soon. He tries hard to convince her that he is not lying. Nico watches from the side and realizes this must be the editor he mentioned before. Tsugumi is clearly scared of her, especially because he made her wait for so long. Nico instantly freezes when she hears Tsugumi call his editor Sakura Nisan. She grabs him in panic and demands to know why he just used Wani-chan. Tsugumi gets confused and points out that he does not even have a sister, or if Sakura is his brother's wife, but Tsugumi shuts that down too. He finally explains that she is just his editor. Then he admits that Sakura can be very clingy, very touchy, and a little too meddlesome, but Tsugumi continues more calmly. Sakura may get angry quickly and have annoying habits, but she has known him for a long time. She helped him a lot before his debut as a novelist, so even with all that chaos, he does not really dislike her. After thinking about it, he decides he really needs to finish his manuscript quickly before Sakura gets even angrier. But then Nico quietly interrupts him. Tsugumi does not understand at first, so Nico explains. Since she is also taking care of him now, she would not mind if he called her something special too. Tsugumi instantly rejects the idea. Nico lights up for a second, clearly excited, but he grumbles that Nico is Nico and there is no need for some special older sister nickname. To him there is no real comparison. Nico listens quietly at first, but the more he talks, the more it hurts. Tsugumi adds that just about everything is different between her and Sakura. Before he can finish properly, Nico suddenly smacks a sticky note onto his face. Emotional damage delivered by an office supply. Tsugumi flails in confusion, trying to remove the note, while Nico starts floating away. He calls after her, but she does not stop. Her mood drops completely. She quietly admits that she ended up being nothing. That catches Tsugumi off guard. A moment later, Nico explodes in embarrassment and anger, yelling that he is stupid. Tsugumi has no idea what just happened and wonders why she is angry now. Then Nico drifts outside and floats up toward the roof, leaving him standing there confused. For her, it seems like the problem is not only the nickname, and now Bestie has officially entered silent rooftop sadness mode. Nico stays on the roof. She is furious that Tsugumi talked about Sakura happily. In her mind, Sakura must be some graceful adult woman using her charm on him, and Nico cannot accept that at all. She yells to herself that she is supposed to be the older sister character in this story. Then her anger slowly turns into something quieter. She reminds herself that she has been taking care of Tsugumi since he was tiny. She knows him better than Sakura. She knows what kind of person he is. Nico realizes that 10 years have passed. Tsugumi met other people, formed new relationships, grew up, and even achieved his dream of becoming a novelist. The Tsugumi standing before her now is not the same little boy she remembers. For Nico, those 10 years feel like only a moment ago, but for Tsugumi, they were enough to change his whole life. The scene returns to Tsugumi's childhood. Little Tsugumi is sitting on the floor with many paper slips around him, writing wishes with a serious face. Nico looks at them and realizes these are not simple wishes. Tsugumi calls them decisions for his future. He explains that these papers are important because Nico is the only one who can make them come true. Then he proudly shows one slip that says he will become a novelist. After that, he turns the question toward Nico. He wonders if she has anything she wants to become too. He gently suggests they should write her wishes together as well. That innocent question stays with her. In the present, Nico opens her eyes and thinks about wishes, promises, and the things people want to make real. Meanwhile, the thrifted hero climbs up to the roof and notices how old everything has become. Still, he smiles because there are so few lights in town that they can see the night sky clearly. The sky is full of stars, wide and beautiful above them. For a moment, everything becomes quiet. He feels happy that it has been a while since he last saw the Milky Way. She questions why he is on the roof in the first place. He sighs as if he passed through the ceiling but was not on the second floor, then the roof was the only place left. Then he blushes as he tells her that he even tried writing one wish for Nico too. She looks surprised as he softly admits that he is only here to make her wish come true. She wanted to be called Ni-chan that badly, but even now he cannot really do that. Tsugumi turns away a little and tells her that he already said it before. Nico is Nico. That is the name he gave her. She remembers the old paper from their childhood. Tsugumi notices her reaction and awkwardly adds that if she does not like the name, he can rethink it. He tries to act casual, but there is real care behind his words. Then, after a small pause, she admits something simple but important. Even now, she thinks the name is good. Nico holds the paper close and smiles softly as if he is the one calling her that. The name Nico is good. Nico accepts it because it came from him. He then suggests that they stay on the roof a little longer. just the two of them sitting under the stars, sharing a small, peaceful moment. After some time, Nico returns inside through the window with a rattle. From her side, it sounds like she started comparing her with someone whose face she has not even seen. Tsugumi agrees at first, but then remembers the real issue. Tomorrow is not just a normal day. Sakura Nisan is coming to the house. The moment Nico hears that, her face freezes in shock. The scene shifts with a glamorous visitor at his workplace. He sits in his usual tired mode while she immediately scolds him as she's in favor of living alone. But for an author it's a bit strange. The hottie is her editor, Sakura Kojo, and she mocks him for never mentioning the important detail that he was living in a haunted shack. Tsugumi tries to correct her, insisting it is more like a villa, but even he has to admit the place is haunted. Sakura explains that someone outside the station told her about it when she came to pick up his draft. And just like that, Tsugumi gets exposed. Writer boy really thought he could hide a whole ghost roommate situation from his editor. But Sakura's not done. She points out that Tsugumi has been acting strange lately. First, he suddenly moves to the countryside. Then he starts living alone in the middle of nowhere. After that, he sends potatoes instead of manuscript pages. And somehow, he even manages to soak his draft in water. The more Sakura lists everything out loud, the worse it sounds. Even Tsugumi struggles to argue back because, put together like that, none of it sounds very normal. Tsugumi quickly tries to defend himself, claiming he is only acting weird because he is not used to living there yet. Thinking about it, he realizes his life has turned into pure chaos ever since he moved in. First, he reunites with the ghost of his first love. Then they somehow start living together. On top of that, her personality is nothing like what he expected. Bro's new life starter pack is absolutely cursed. While Tsugumi is busy explaining himself, Nico suddenly goes completely silent. She just stands there staring. The sudden switch is so creepy that even Tsugumi gets nervous. For a second, she actually starts acting like a ghost again. Sakura nervous. Sakura notices it too. Looking over at Nico, she wonders if the ghost girl has simply never met someone like her before. Meanwhile, Nico keeps staring without blinking, making the whole room feel awkward. Tsugumi then remembers that Nico started acting strangely right after Sakura arrived. Looking back on yesterday, he recalls how she seemed unusually competitive whenever Sakura was around. Now he starts wondering what Nico actually thinks about Sakura Nisan. Nico finally figures out why she was acting so weird. When Sakura showed up, she thought her precious One-Nisan position was about to get stolen. But after watching her closely, she realizes Sakura is a completely different type of One-Nisan. Not even a little overlap. Instantly, all her anxiety disappears. She even decides that Sakura seems like a good person. Ghost Bestie spent an entire day fighting an imaginary rival. While Nico stands there looking oddly satisfied, Sakura pulls Tsugumi back into the conversation. He realizes something important. Sakura cannot see Nico at all. The ghost girl has been standing right there the whole time, yet Sakura never notices her. Sakura then starts complaining about the area. The station is far away, there are barely any buses or taxis, and there are bugs everywhere. Just reaching the house was a struggle. She tells Tsugumi to come back to Tokyo as soon as possible. Hearing this, Nico wonders if Sakura dislikes him living there. Tsugumi quickly denies it and explains that the place is simply inconvenient. Then he casually adds that things would obviously be better without them around. A second later, he awkwardly clarifies that he means ghosts. Unfortunately, both Tsugumi and Nico freeze at the same time. Drip King realizes way too late that those words did not sound good at all. Safika stares at him like he just unlocked a secret conspiracy theory and asks if he seriously thinks ghosts are not creepy. Tsugumi completely fumbles the response, trying to explain himself while looking more suspicious with every word. After calming down, Sakura admits that his feelings are understandable. This is the place where he used to live, after all. But even if the ghost stories are only rumors, she worries that staying there will eventually drag down his mood and affect his writing. She reminds him that he moved here to escape his slump, not to sink deeper into it. Tsugumi listens quietly before finally speaking up. He admits she has a point, but there is something else keeping him there. Sakura immediately catches on to that hesitation. If all he wanted was a quiet place to write, there are plenty of other locations. So why this house specifically? The question hits hard. Sakura suddenly freezes, takes a shaky step back, and stares at him in shock. Before she can finish her thought, a teapot and teacups begin floating through the room. Tsugumi turns toward the familiar sight and calls out to Nico. She appears carrying the tea set, but this time her expression is completely different. Instead of her usual cheerful smile, she wears a calm, mysterious look that leaves Tsugumi staring. And with that unsettling smile, the scene comes to an end. Poor MC tells himself that living without ghosts would obviously be better. Before he can think any further, Sakura suddenly looks terrified and stammers that something is wrong with him. Tsugumi turns around and sees Nico standing there silently. A second later, Nico marches straight toward him and starts stuffing teacups into his hands. Tsugumi has no idea what is happening. Then Nico suddenly apologizes for taking too long to bring the tea. Feels like she really switched from final boss mode back to customer service mode in 10 seconds. Nico then proudly strikes a maid-like pose and tells him to become all soft and Momo. Tsugumi nearly short-circuits from confusion and demands to know where she even learned that. Nico casually answers that she read it in magazines. Tsugumi immediately calls her out, pointing out that this is not how actual maids behave. Meanwhile, Sakura is standing there watching Tsugumi argue with thin air. To her it looks like he is having a full conversation with himself. She starts getting creeped out, but then suddenly notices something even worse. The teapot is floating in midair by itself. The realization hits her like a truck. Tsugumi finally understands why she is freaking out. Sakura cannot see Nico at all. Even then, Nico keeps offering tea and wondering if Sakura would prefer juice instead, while Tsugumi desperately tries to stop her. Sakura grabs Tsugumi and starts panicking. She insists they need to leave immediately and find an exorcist. Tsugumi awkwardly tries to calm her down, but before he can explain anything, Nico casually appears right behind Sakura and pats her on the shoulder. That is the final hit. Sakura freezes with a face full of pure terror. Her chill meter instantly drops to 0, then she collapses on the spot. Tsugumi rushes over in shock while Nico tilts her head in confusion. When he scolds her for going too far and scaring Sakura unconscious, Nico looks genuinely surprised. She argues that Sakura must have fainted because she was dissatisfied with the service. Tsugumi stares at her in disbelief. This is literally the first person Nico has ever made faint. As Sakura rests, the mood becomes quieter. Nico smiles and asks Tsugumi if he really told Sakura anything important about this place. Tsugumi admits that he did not tell her the details. The history of the house is not exactly something he likes talking about. It is heavy stuff. Nico points out that even so, Sakura was here back then. Tsugumi pauses. He knows Sakura only said those harsh things because she is worried about him. She wants him to leave this place and move on. But even knowing that, he still cannot agree with her completely. After a long silence, he finally starts speaking honestly. If Nico has something she wants to say, or something she has been thinking about, he wants to hear it too. For the first time, Nico stops joking around and simply looks at him. The playful ghost girl suddenly seems much more serious than usual. Something important is clearly on her mind, and Tsugumi is finally ready to listen. Sakura finally wakes up and immediately starts looking around in panic. The moment she remembers what happened, she grabs Tsugumi and demands to know where the monster went. Tsugumi casually tells her not to worry because Nico is not here right now. That somehow makes things worse. Sakura looks completely traumatized while ghost bestie Nico quietly watches from the sidelines like an innocent bystander. Trying to avoid the topic, Tsugumi suddenly asks if Sakura wants something to eat. Sakura instantly narrows her eyes. She demands an explanation, but Tsugumi keeps dodging the question and points out that the food is already prepared. Then he accidentally lets it slip that she made the meal. Sakura practically jumps out of her skin. There is no way he just said a ghost-cooked lunch. As Sakura stares at him in disbelief, Tsugumi finally blurts out what has been on his mind. He insists that ghosts are not actually that bad. Sakura looks at him like he has completely lost his mind. Tsugumi quickly tries to rephrase, but then he glances toward Nico and pauses. He admits that Nico is clumsy, annoying, and sometimes completely shameless. Honestly, she is exactly the type of person he normally cannot handle. Nico proudly poses in the background while Sakura looks even more confused. The girl is collecting insults and compliments at the same time. But despite all of that, Tsugumi quietly admits something important. Being with Nico is not bad at all. Nico freezes for a moment. Her usual playful expression disappears, replaced by a soft and surprised look. Even Tsugumi seems shocked by his own words. Then he starts to add something else. If Nico is here, then maybe he can. He stops halfway through the sentence. Meanwhile, Nico's cheeks turn slightly red as she smiles at him. For once, the loud ghost girl says nothing. She simply looks happy to hear it. Tsugumi finally notices that Nico has been standing right behind him the entire time. The moment he yells her name, Sakura nearly has another heart attack. Nico, meanwhile, is completely confused. Instead of understanding why everyone is freaking out, she innocently asks if the pancakes are for her and starts talking about toppings. Tsugumi quickly discovers that Nico's idea of pancake syrup is apparently ketchup, which only makes Sakura laugh harder. As Sakura watches Tsugumi casually argue with an invisible ghost, her fear starts disappearing. She realizes this isn't some terrifying horror movie spirit. It's basically a weird girl who hangs around Tsugumi all day. Looking at the pancakes Nico made, Sakura jokes that Nico is actually a pretty talented ghost. Sakura finally softens after seeing Nico's awkward attempt to apologize. Realizing he has actually changed since moving into the mansion, she admits she may have judged both of them too harshly. For Nico, this is a huge moment. After being feared and misunderstood for so long, she is finally acknowledged and accepted by someone other than Tsugumi. Unfortunately, Nico's excitement goes from 0 to 100 real quick. Nico happily accepts Sakura's request, but the moment she gets excited, she accidentally squeezes ketchup on Sakura's face way too hard. The ketchup spills unexpectedly, startling her and sending her into a panicked reaction. Nico completely panics, thinking she somehow broke her new friend. Sugumi can't help smiling. For the first time in a long while, the mansion doesn't feel lonely anymore.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.